Rawr! Hello and welcome to Midnight Reading. Today we'll be reading What Am I Reading? Written by Love Me. LUV-MI. Yes, it literally means love me. Oops. As always, these are our amazing Patreons. Link is in the description if you wish to join. And it certainly helps keep the lights on. Especially with our newest little one. Now, shall we get to it? How could something that houses such great memories be turned to ash so easily? Those were the exact thoughts Twilight had shortly after they had defeated the large, magical sucking monster known as Tirek. She calmly walked through the rubble of her once proud library. She couldn't help but think back to all the memories she had had in that tree-made house. It seemed like just yesterday she had invited Applejack and Rarity inside to protect them from the horrid weather, and got them to ignore their differences and enjoy each other's company. It was also the time when she first discovered the humorous effects of Poison Joke, and all of their friends had brought themselves in to show the effects the silly flower had had on them. Now, all that was left to show those memories had now been turned to ash. It was all so heartbreaking. Looking around at the burnt wood, charred books, the rainbow patterned books sitting in a stand made of completely of spoons, the blackened fabric of her bed, it was all... Wait, what? I don't remember ever. Twilight began to state to herself, but stopping, knowing that there was far more wrong with this picture than her ownership of this sudden book. She approached the multicolored book, slowly placing her hoof on it. It was pristine, not a speck of dust on it. She had so many questions. What is this book? Where did it come from? Why was it undamaged? Why was it held up by spoons? As she asked herself these questions, Spike jogs up beside her. Hey Twilight, how you feeling? He asks, then looks at the rainbow book. Where did that come from? He asks. Twilight shrugs a bit, then picks up the book with her magic, which somehow causes the pile of spoons to fall to the ground. Twilight and Spike lean towards the book, studying it. No title, no author, no sign that this book was ever even made. Twilight stood there staring at it for a while. I'm gonna try and read it, she proclaimed to Spike. She then slowly opened the book to a random page, but as soon as she did, the pile of spoons that had been toppled earlier hastily stood up with a hop. Twilight stared at the sudden movement from the silverware, until the spoons finally spoke up. Vida Revolution! One shouted, in a high-pitched squeak, followed up by squeaks from its spoon brethren. The small army of spoons then ran off into the distance, being alarmingly agile despite being silverware with no limbs. Twilight and Spike stood in place, their eyebrows simultaneously raised in confusion. Twilight slowly turned her head towards Spike. What was that? Twilight asked rhetorically. Spike simply stood there, completely still, and was completely up straight, having a blank expression on his face. Spike? Twilight spoke up, concerned for the small dragon. It was then that smoke became bellowing out of Spike's feet, and slowly started to rise, causing Twilight to back up a bit. Flames suddenly erupted from Spike's heels, and he soon flew away in similar vein to a rocket, leaving a smoke trail behind him. Twilight again was taken aback from the random occurrence. What? She murmured, then began pacing, trying to think of an explanation, and random pieces of burned wood and furniture started slowly floating up and stacking on top of each other. Okay, Twilight. Think, there has to be a reasonable explanation for all this. But what? Nothing here makes sense. Why is me opening a book causing all of these random events He then stopped mid-sentence, realization striking her. Twilight then called out, Discord! Said Draconicus of Chaos, then popped his head out of a nearby dirty teacup, then began flying around, his uneven body curling as he moves about the air.
Why are you being so loud? Some ponies are trying to relax, you know.
Twilight then shoved the rainbow-patterned book in his face angrily. Look familiar? She asked. Discord stood there in confusion.
What?
Twilight let out a sigh of annoyance. Well, Discord, I find this completely undamaged book in my destroyed library, and it's being held up by multiple spoons. And when I opened the book, those spoons ran away declaring a revolution, and Spike flew away in a giant blaze. Sounds pretty random and chaotic, don't you think? She stated. After hearing her, Discord reeled backwards, seemingly insulted by her words.
Twilight, you can't be serious. I thought we were friends. You should know that I would never stack a book using filthy spoons. I would if I was to use any silverware. I'd probably place the book on pizza cutters. Only a fool would.
Discord! Twilight shouted. Discord froze for a second, and then began twiddling his fingers.
Sorry. No, I don't know where that book came from, honestly.
He stated sincerely. Twilight rubbed her head with her hoof. Well, there has to be some reason this book is here. And why is it so weird? I mean, I can't even read all the words that are just gibberish. She yelled in frustration. Discord then swiped the book from her.
Oh, I could translate that. I'm very fluent in gibberish.
He flaunted. Discord then cleared his throat heavily, then started to couch, eventually coughing up a baby chick, casually. He cleared his throat once more and began reading.
Alright, let's see. I remember hearing about the lovely, lonely girl who ate nothing but cabbage. She ate so much cabbage the villagers were forced to call the gumshoe, who proceeded to throw apples at her rapidly, turning her into a cockatrice. Neat!
He read. Twilight spoke up, and that translates to...
Of course, ahem. Johnny has 5 apples. If he eats 2, then proceeds to throw the remaining 3 directly at the sun, at a speed of 30 miles per hour, assuming there will be no resistance in space, as well as taking the Earth's gravity into account. Approximately how long would it take each individual apple to reach the sun, if each apple was thrown 3 seconds in between each other? Oh, math. This is a tricky one. Let me see, the gravity of Earth would be enough resistance that...
Twilight then put her hoof on his head, forcing him to look at her. Discord, focus! What does it mean?
Oh, Twilight, you silly Billy. You can't make sense of chaos. It's chaos! Let me tell you, Sparkle, if you want to stop this chaos, the only cure for this is more chaos. Fight fire with fire.
Twilight stood there confused. What? Suddenly she was dragged and turned around, seated in front of a chalkboard, suddenly placed in rubble, which had a multitude of random objects seeming to be fighting one another. Discord then came in from the side, wearing a camouflage military outfit.
Now listen here, soldier,
he shouted in an extremely deep and gritty voice.
We've got a level 10 funny business emergency. If we have any hope of winning, we need to fight back.
Discord then flew away from the rubble, putting his hands up in fists.
Alright, you mysterious, chaotic genius, you! Put up your dukes and face me like a Chacotaquis!
His head then turned into a giant turnip. Twilight still stood in her library, gazing at Discord as he fiddled with his turnip head. After staring for a while, she stood there, thinking about how she understood absolutely nothing about this. After a few minutes of soul-searching, she looked back at Discord, who now had a face on his turnip head.
I got it. If one wants to conquer the turnip, he must be the turnip.
He shouted triumphantly, and his whole body turned into a shrimp. But from the shrimp, Discord lunged out hastily, covered in milk, flying over to Twilight.
I got it,
he confidently proclaimed. Do you? Twilight questioned. Discord stood higher, smirking.
If we're going to beat the powers of this book, we must draw out the author.
How are we going to do that? She asked.
With...
Discord slowly reached behind him, and the lightning around them seemed to turn more dramatic.
This!
He then pulled out a corn of the cob, followed by blue lightning behind him. Twilight stood there. She was not amused. Why would he go after corn on the cob specifically? Discord then slapped the cob and the corn turned purple.
Arr!
Discord then stood like a gangster, making a gang sign with his free hand. After staring at Discord for a while, Twilight reverted her attention back to the book, scratching her chin with her hoof. Then, closed the book. After waiting for a while, Twilight looked around, Nothing seemed out of the ordinary anymore, and she shrugged. Discord stopped for a bit. Then he hunched slightly, his arms drooping down beside him.
That works too.
Twilight then sat down, smiling and giving a relaxed sigh. Finally, it's over. I'll be to show this book to Celestia when I get the chance. I'm sure she will know what to do with it. Discord then hung around in that spot for an almost awkward amount of time, before turning around and walking away.
See you later, I suppose,
he said, as he left. Twilight then looked back at the book as she waved him off. She gazed at the book in confusion and curiosity. She then asked the question everybody had, to herself. What did I just read? Nice. This really had me for a bit. I sort of read it and went, wait, what? I'm confused. But at the same time, it's a Discord story. Well, it's a Twilight with Chaos story, but with Discord. Either way, pretty interesting. That was What Am I Reading? Written by Love Me. I hope you all enjoyed, and keep watching that moon, everyone. Bye!